You are dying, not because your heart will one day stop, but because you are being consumed from the inside by 5 invisible architects of your own destruction. Most people believe that progress is a matter of adding more hours, more money, more skills. But the dark reality of the human psyche is that greatness is not an additive process. It is a subtractive one. To move forward, you must first stop the bleeding. You are currently a vessel with 5 distinct holes in the hull, and no matter how hard you row, the water is rising faster than your ambition. You have been told that your enemies are external, the economy, your boss, your upbringing, but these are merely convenient fictions designed to protect your ego from the devastating truth. To the gates of your potential are locked from the inside, and you are the one holding the key in a trembling hand. The first enemy is a silent poisoner that masquerades as careful consideration, a slow-acting toxin that Jim Rohn identified as indecision. We live in an era of infinite choice, which has become our ultimate cage. You tell yourself you are thinking it over, but in the dark corridors of your mind, you are actually practicing the art of mental suicide. Every moment you spend caught between 2 paths is a moment where you belong to neither, and thus you cease to exist. Indecision is the thief of opportunity, a shadow that grows longer as your life's sun begins to set. It is a psychological paralysis that stems from a pathological fear of being wrong, yet the irony is that staying still is the only guaranteed way to be wrong. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the bold, not because the bold are always right, but because the bold at least provide the universe with a target to hit. When you refuse to decide, you are not being safe. You are being a ghost in your own life. You are waiting for a sign that will never come because the sign is the decision itself. This mental fog creates a vacuum where your momentum goes to die. But there is a deeper, more dangerous truth we haven't touched yet, one that involves the very way you perceive your own failures. Indecision leads directly into the second enemy, a more aggressive predator known as doubt. If indecision is the fog, doubt is the wolf that lives within it. Most people think of doubt as a lack of confidence, but it is actually a form of negative faith. You are using the same creative power that could build an empire to instead visualize your own catastrophe. You have become a master at imagining the worst possible outcome with such vivid detail that your nervous system reacts as if it has already happened. This is a betrayal of the highest order. You are using your mind to testify against yourself. When you doubt your ability, you are not being realistic. You are being a coward who has found a sophisticated way to hide. Stoicism teaches us that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and doubt is the primary engine of that suffering. It whispers that you are an imposter, that the world will eventually find out you have nothing to offer. It turns your potential into a burden. You carry your dreams around like a heavy stone, afraid to set them down and even more afraid to throw them. But even if you were to conquer this internal skeptic, you would still have to face the cold, suffocating embrace of the third enemy. That third enemy is the most socially acceptable form of failure, procrastination. It is the velvet-lined coffin of the soul. We treat procrastination like a bad habit, a simple matter of time management. But it is actually a deep-seated psychological defense mechanism against the pain of effort. Every time you say, tomorrow, you are making a contract with a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You are offloading the burden of your growth onto a fictional character. This is the great lie of the human condition, the belief that the future version of you will somehow be more disciplined, more energetic, or more courageous than the person standing in the mirror right now. The truth is that later is the place where all great dreams go to rot. It is the graveyard of the unwritten book, the unstarted business, and the unspoken confession. Procrastination is a form of arrogance. It assumes that you have an infinite supply of time when in reality your clock is ticking down with every breath you take. You are trading your life for the comfort of the couch and you longing it at a discount. The longer you wait to begin, the harder it becomes to move, as the weight of your unfulfilled intentions begins to crystallize into a permanent state of stagnation. Yet even as you sit in the silence of your delays, a fourth enemy is whispering in your ear, louder than all the others. This fourth enemy is the most seductive of them all, fear. Not the primal fear that keeps you from jumping off a cliff, but the sophisticated, this modern fear that keeps you from standing out. It is the fear of criticism, the fear of losing what you have, and the fear of the unknown. We are biological creatures designed for survival, not for success. Your brain is not wired to make you rich or happy. It is wired to keep you alive and hidden. To progress, you must act in direct opposition to your evolutionary programming. You must become comfortable with the feeling of being hunted. Most people spend their entire lives trying to minimize risk, but the greatest risk of all is living a life that requires no courage. If you are not afraid of what you are doing, your goals are too small to be worth your time. Fear is the border guard of your comfort zone. If you want to expand your territory, You must be willing to go to war with that guard every single day. The dark secret of highly successful people is not that they are fearless, but they have developed a sadistic relationship with their fear. They use it as a compass. If they are afraid of it, they know they must do it. But there is a fifth enemy, one so subtle that it often goes unnoticed until the very end, and it is the one that ultimately determines whether the other four will win. The final enemy is the great silencer, overcaution. This is the most insidious because it dresses itself up as wisdom. It tells you to wait for the perfect moment, to gather more data, to ensure that everything is lined up before you take the jump. But the perfect moment is a myth sold to those who are too afraid to bleed. In the real world, the ready, aim, fire approach is a recipe for relevance. You must learn to fire and then adjust your aim while the smoke is still in the air. Overcaution is the slow death of the spirit. It turns a vibrant, adventurous life into a series of calculated compromises. It is the refusal to play the game because you might get a bruise. Jim Rohn warned that if you are not willing to risk the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. And for a soul capable of greatness, ordinary is a fate worse than death. Overcaution is the manifestation of a lack of trust in the universe and in yourself. It is the belief that you are so fragile that one mistake will shatter you forever. But you are not glass, you are iron, and iron is forged in the heat of the struggle, not in the safety of the shed. As you stand at the crossroads of these five forces, you must realize that they are not independent entities. They work in a dark synergy to keep you exactly where you are. Indecision breeds doubt. Doubt fuels procrastination. Procrastination heightens fear. And fear justifies overcaution. It is a closed loop of mediocrity that has claimed the lives of billions. To break the cycle, you cannot fight them one by one with logic. You must overwhelm them with the sheer force of your will. You must become a person of action, someone who moves before they are ready and speaks before they are certain. The world does not reward those who are right. It rewards those who are present and persistent. You have been playing a defensive game, trying to avoid losing, but life is won by those who are willing to lose everything for the sake of a vision only they can see. Consider the historical weight of those who refuse to succumb to these enemies. The great conquerors, the visionary artists, the ruthless innovators, they all felt the same pull toward safety and silence that you feel now. The difference is that they recognized these internal voices as the calls of a siren designed to crash their ships against the rocks of anonymity. They chose the pain of growth over the numbness of safety. They understood that the ego's primary job is to keep you small so that it can remain safe. You want to grow, you must be willing to kill your current self to make room for the person you are meant to become. This is the psychological ego, death required for true progress. It is not a comfortable process, it is a violent one. You must tear down the walls of your own psyche and rebuild them on a foundation of discipline and defiance. We often look at the successful and assume they possess some magical quality, a lack of fear or an abundance of luck. But look closer and you will see the scars where they fought these five enemies and won. They decided when it was difficult, they trusted when it was illogical, they acted when it was inconvenient. They stood up when they were terrified, and they risked when they had everything to lose. This is the price of admission to the ranks of the elite. There is no discount. There is no bypass. You either pay the price of discipline now, or you will pay the weight of regret for the rest of your life. And regret weighs tons, while discipline only weighs ounces. The tragedy of the human experience is that most people will watch this, understand it, and then go right back to their indecision and their doubt. They will wait for a better time to start. They will look for more information. They will seek permission from people who have never done anything worth doing. They will let the five enemies win because the enemies are familiar and you unknown is terrifying. But you are not most people. The very fact that you are still here, listening to these harsh truths, means there is a spark of rebellion left in you. That spark is the only thing that matters. It is the seed of your future empire. Do not let the dampness of your current environment put it out. Fan it into a flame that consumes your fears and lights the way forward. Stop asking for directions from people who have never been where you are going. Stop looking for a map when you are in a territory that hasn't been charted yet. Your life is the ultimate experiment, and the only way to fail is to stop experimenting. The five enemies of progress are waiting for you at every turn, but they are only as strong as the secrets you keep from yourself. Once you name them, once you see them for what they are, mere psychological illusions, they lose their power. You are the master of your fate, but only if you are willing to be the master of your own mind. The war is internal, the stakes are infinite, and the time is now. You must realize that every second you spend in the company of these five enemies is a second you are stealing from the person you were born to be. You are committing a crime against your own potential. The world is waiting for your contribution, but it will not wait forever. The window of opportunity is narrow, and it is closing a little more with every heartbeat. Do not be the person who looks back at age 80 and realizes they spent their entire life preparing to live. Live now. Decide now. Act now. Risk now. The five enemies will always be there, whispering in the shadows, but you have the power to turn up the volume of your own ambition until their voices are nothing more than background noise. So the path to progress is paved with the corpses of your former selves. It is a lonely road, a dark road, and a road that requires everything you have. But it is the only road that leads anywhere worth going. So you've been warned. You've been equipped. Now you must choose. Will you remain a victim of your own internal saboteurs, or will you become the architect of your own destiny? The choice is not a one-time event. It is 1,000 small decisions made every single day. Choose wisely, for the ghosts of your unfulfilled dreams are watching, and they are hungry for your success. The most terrifying thought is not that you might fail, but that you might succeed at something that doesn't matter. You have been distracted by the trivial, lured into a false sense of security by the very enemies we have discussed. It is time to wake up. It is time to face the darkness and find the light within it. You are dying, not because your heart will one day stop, but because you are being consumed from the inside by five invisible architects of your own destruction. Would you like me to expand on any specific historical examples of leaders who overcame these five enemies, or perhaps craft a practical daily routine designed to neutralize these psychological saboteurs?